Welcome to the Black Gay History Channel. Please share this video and subscribe to this channel for more captivating content. Bob Marley has become one of the most legendary musicians on the planet by embodying the voice of Jamaican people and that of the entire African diaspora's call for Black revolution and world peace among nations. Bob Marley and his band The Wailers became the face of a small Caribbean nation and helped reggae music identify Jamaican culture with the rest of the world. Bob Marley, through his epic story of coming from the poor streets of Jamaica to becoming a worldwide musical visionary and symbol of peace, is considered one of the most iconic historical figures of the 20th century. This is why I know so many people will take issue with the interpretation of one of his many iconic songs that in the lyrics clearly talk about fluid sexuality, which for many years now has been something Jamaican people deny exists within their own culture. Yours truly is a Jamaican Canadian who grew up in the United States as a gay teen, and I was able to identify with this Jamaican hero and his ideals of Black liberation globally and ideology, that we can all make this world a better place. So when I heard his track Kinky Reggae and read lyrics that clearly sounded like a man was coming on to Bob in this song's storytelling, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But before I go into the breakdown of this track and why I think it obviously talks about Bob Marley's own bicurious thoughts and his acceptance of gay sexualities, I think some background on Marley's legacy is in order for some listeners who may not be aware. After his rise to fame in Jamaica in the early 1970s, Bob Marley and the Wailers would become world-renowned musicians, making several timeless hits like One Love, No Woman, No Cry, Could You Be Loved, Redemption Song, Get Up, Stand Up, and numerous others. Through Jamaica's political turmoil in the 1970s, Marley became a national figure who tried to abstain from politics, but was inevitably drawn into the discourse, and in 1976, narrowly survived an assassination attempt at his home. Though Marley became synonymous with reggae music, the face of Jamaica and the Rastafarian religion, many people in Jamaica took issue with his lack of interest in the Christian church and Eurocentric standards of beauty and living, making him a people's hero, but a social rebel to the conservative Jamaican elite. Unexpectedly, Marley passed away from skin cancer in 1981, but has since become a legend that has lasted generations and reached people and fans of his music and message all over the world. In 1978, Marley was awarded the Peace Medal from the United Nations. In 1981, he was awarded the Jamaican Order of Merit. And in 1994, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In years past, Marley's legacy has achieved nearly every musical accolade you can think of. Bob Marley is still one of the best-selling reggae artists on the global reggae market in 2023, and even several of his children and grandchildren have gone on to become critically acclaimed musical stars in their own right. His imagery, pictures, and murals of him have global impact and represent peace all over the world in many international cultures. Bob Marley, One Love, is set to be the very first Bob Marley biopic movie to premiere next year on Valentine's Day. And what a perfect day to debut this film. The term One Love is a phrase his music popularized, a common, simple Jamaican phrase that means one world peace for everyone and all humanity. Though there have been countless documentaries on his life throughout the years, never before has there been a scripted movie about his life, and even better, this movie's script and star actor, Kingsley Ben-Adir, was supported and chosen by his children and their estate. One love is a philosophical phrase of peace that Jamaicans use casually, but sometimes it's hard to believe we are all understanding and utilizing this message as Jamaicans. In Bob Marley's days, his message of peace nearly cost him his life. And even today, Jamaica struggles to handle their high rates of violent acts in the country. Jamaican LGBTQ people have notoriously become a target in Jamaican culture after Bob Marley's passing, where reggae's younger and more troubled musical brother, dancehall, brought in countless messages of anti-gay hate, violence, and murder to the country's consciousness. It's so ironic that Jamaicans have so much hatred for grown adults and their consensual relationships. Many will never admit that not only have many Jamaican men, openly gay or otherwise, have been having sex with men, the idea that gay relationships are singularly evil in nature comes from Jamaica's British Christian colonizers, a fact Bob Marley was likely aware of himself. Here on this channel, there are countless documented stories of indigenous African words for gay sex and relationships, as well as gay marriages, so there's no escaping the reality that the buggery laws in place in Jamaica were put there by British colonizers who wanted to make sure their African slaves were making as many new slaves as possible. Bob Marley himself, beyond being a symbol of peace, was undeniably a sex symbol of the free love ideology as well. Though Bob Marley was married, it was no secret that he had many other love affairs throughout his life. With fame, fortune, and success comes attention from fans and admirers, and you would have to be delusional to think some of those admirers weren't also men. Though Bob Marley may have never made any public statements or quotes on gay relationships, like many musicians, he put his deeper thoughts and feelings into his music. Kinky Reggae is the 7th track on Bob Marley and the Wailers' 5th studio album, Catch a Fire, which was released in 1973 and is clearly a song about sexual encounters that Marley either had or idealized in his imagination. And one of those scenarios, whether real or imagined, was with a man. Now, to be clear, Bob Marley isn't the only Jamaican reggae icon to mention LGBTQ people. Frequent early collaborator of Bob Marley and the Wailers band was legendary reggae producer Lee Scratch Perry, who produced the Wailers' 2nd studio album, Soul Rebels, in 1970. Lee Scratch Perry not only created many of the musical foundations that are now dubbed electronic music, a genre that became dancehall, hip-hop music, and other electronic genres. He has gone on record in a 2008 interview saying gay people have the right to live their lives. When I googled the history of this song, Kinky Reggae, one of the first articles that popped up was a 2008 article written on Feminist blog by a Jamaican-American writer who clearly had the exact same thought I did when I heard this song. It was clear that at the very least in this track, Bob Marley considers, if not actually has, an encounter with a man in a kinky part of town. In the lyrics, Marley sings the details of him traveling through different Jamaican neighborhoods and attracting different people, men and women, who use sexual euphemisms to entice him into some adult action. In the first verse, Marley meets Miss Brown and says, "I went downtown. I saw Miss Brown. She had brown sugar all over her booger wooger. I think I might join the fun, but I had to hit and run. See, I just can't settle down in a kinky part of town. Sugar on her booger wooger? If I have to break it down for our listeners, I guess I will. Sugar has been used to describe female sexual parts before, and if that's not enough, booger wooger is clearly a slang term for the same thing. But like we discussed, Marley was about free love and likely had numerous lovers. In the lyrics, he clearly states he had to hit and run, another slang term for a one-night stand. Even the term kinky is sexual in nature, so if anyone is trying to deny the meanings of these euphemisms, they are being willfully obtuse. In the second verse, he details more of his encounter with Miss Brown, stating, "I went downtown and saw Miss Brown, and this is what she said. You'd like brown sugar?" And she stroked her fingers through my chest. I say, "Hey sister, I'm a stranger riding through town. I'm like a hit and run, but yo, I just can't settle down." Clearly, this line is warning her that he's not interested in a romantic entanglement, but is open to her physical advances. But in the third verse, we now get a new scenario, one that I think is very telling of Marley's views on same-sex encounters. In the third verse, Marley sings, "I went down to Piccadilly Circus. Down there I saw Marcus. Oh, Marcus. He had a candy tar all over his candy bar. I said, I'm gonna join the fun, but I had to hit and run. See, I just can't settle down in a kinky part of town." Now, there's several ways to interpret that candy tar, candy bar line, but to me it's quite clear. If this song is sexual, and in this verse there's no woman being discussed in the lyrics, this is already a sexual scenario between men. Marley can clearly see Marcus's candy bar because it has candy tar on it. Candy bars are phallic in nature, and back in the 1970s, nearly most, if not all, candy bars were chocolate brown, just like a black man's member. Could candy tar be a man's sexual fluid? I think so, especially if sugar on a booger wooger was the reference to sweet candy in the first verse with Miss Brown. Let's be clear here now. The lyrics state, "I'm gonna join the fun, but I had to hit and run." It's obvious that at least in the realm of this song, Bob and Marcus had some fun, or Bob hit and ran before he left that kinky part of town. He never said he might join the fun like he did in a previous verse. He clearly says, "gonna," meaning he has an intention to join the fun with Marcus. Now, am I saying that this is irrefutable evidence that Bob Marley had sexual encounters with men? No. What I am saying is that this song clearly states that in Bob Marley's world, it was a possibility. We get the intimate details of what happened between Bob and Marcus, not graphically but poetically. To deny the lyrics story just because you want to idealize Bob Marley as a completely heterosexual person is to purposefully ignore what the lyrics and message of this song are clearly saying. Bob Marley was using masculine he/his pronouns and had a hit and run, so to speak, with Marcus. And I find that incredibly inspiring to know that the king of reggae acknowledged same-sex attraction in his music. In order for Jamaica and truly the entire African diaspora to find harmony on earth, we are going to have to learn to accept others for their differences. Now, do I think there should be systems in place to hold wrongdoers accountable? Absolutely. Yet the idea that gay relationships are intrinsically immoral is unfounded religious persecution and against what we know of basic science and human sociology, and of course, human history, which is the whole point of this channel. Bob Marley preached and sang a message of one love, and I have a hard time believing this Jamaican revolutionary of peace and love would condemn gay people to violence. Not only was violence against his overall message, this 1973 track, Kinky Reggae, may tell us that some of Bob Marley's past lovers were with men. If you read the lyrics and deny it, as some surely will, then it's to deny the obvious. The only way we can work past these mental barriers is to be honest with ourselves. Many men, Jamaican or otherwise, have been attracted to and had relationships with men long before the Christian church or the nation of Jamaica even existed. It's time Jamaica and the Black global consciousness step up to the plate and acknowledge that some of our violent attitudes towards those that are different have never served us. To quote Bob Marley and the Wailers, "Don't let them fool you, or even try to school you. Oh no, we've got a mind of our own, so go to hell if what you think is not right. Love would never leave us alone. Ah, then in the darkness, there must come out to light. Could you be loved? Then be loved." I'd love to hear your thoughts on Bob Marley's Legacy and the track Kinky Reggae in the comments. One love.